When you think about the guys that are with Gary Brecka right now, big celebrities, powerful businessmen, people who can afford healthcare, and they're not. They're going with Gary Brecka, and the guy completely changed my life.
My name is Gary Brecka. I'm a human biologist, researcher, and a biohacker. After years and years of working in the insurance industry predicting mortality to the month, I realized one thing. There were human beings on the other side of the spreadsheets that I was working on, and that I didn't want to spend another day of my lifetime predicting how long people were going to live. And I wanted to help them live happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives.
The main thing you taught me that I really learned was there is no one fix for everybody.
You see, we were put on this earth to thrive. God gave us everything that we need in order to manifest our destiny and thrive.
I owe Gary Brecka a thank you.
I can't thank you enough for the help that you have given me.
And to say that this guy has changed my life is the understatement of the century.
Let's go, baby, let's go! Every one of us deserves to thrive. And so I began to travel the world and meet with the leading pioneers in regenerative medicine, functional medicine, biohacking, and all kinds of research modalities and how we can improve the human performance, its form, and its function.
Gary Brecka, baby!
You know what Gary does, he really made me understand. I feel good. I feel better than I've ever felt.
See you, Gary. Good looking out, brother.
Gary Brecka, he told me I should start using something called Perfect Aminos.
I lost like 30 pounds, right?
It's fantastic.
And it was that Brecka stuff.
No, Gary's a national treasure.
You see, I believe that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, and that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And if we want optimal health, we have to educate ourselves. And today, I am so blessed to share my journey and all of my research with all of you.
Oh my God. It is such a blessing to be here. I absolutely love this crowd. Thank you guys so much. Wow. The welcome that you guys gave my wife and I, thank you so much. It's such a blessing. My name is Gary Brecka. I'm a human biologist, a researcher, a biohacker. And just very quickly, I spent 22 years of my life in mortality research. And when I was working for these large life insurance companies, we had access to a database that had 371 million lives. And we knew for those 371 million lives, we knew the day, the date, the time, the location, and the cause of death. And what we did was we triangulated that back into the record. We looked through medical records, we looked through demographic data, and we developed a model to predict mortality to the month. And probably of all the things I say from the stage, I get the most flack for saying that, because people go, well, if you could predict death to the month, you'd be Jesus. I promise you I'm not Jesus, I'm a believer, but to his glory. Or you would have won a Nobel Prize, and I've never won a Nobel Prize, but it is some of the most accurate science in the world. And the one thing we didn't use was we didn't use randomized clinical trials. We didn't use data from Big Pharma. We didn't use data from the CDC. We used actual large data. And what you guys are about to see over the next 5 years is you're going to see the combination of artificial intelligence, big data, and early detection circumvent the entire medical system in a way that is going to be catastrophic. We are going to put the faith back in humanity, back in mankind, and restore the belief in what God gave us, not what man makes us. And so on that journey, people like me will be vindicated, because I've been called a charlatan and all kinds of things. I've been banned on social media just for believing in the body's ability to heal itself and the power that this has over this. You see, after 22 years of research, I say this every time I take the stage. If you see me speak, you've seen this. I believe this to be the most important sentence that you will hear for the balance of your lifetime in terms of how many more years you have left on earth, whether or not you have waking or water retention or poor sleep or poor focus and concentration, your hormone balance, and that is that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And the reason why I say this is because The one major discovery that all of us agreed on when we were doing mortality research was that all human beings leave this earth the same way. We all die of the same thing. It's called hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain. When you can no longer sustain enough oxygen in the brain, that's the end. But we think of it as an event, like a gunshot wound, a bus, a heart attack, a stroke. But the truth is, it's a predictable curve. Everybody's on one in here. And the better you are managing oxygen in your body, the longer you are going to live. Not only your lifespan, but your health span. The more poorly you are managing oxygen, the faster you are accelerating towards the grave. I met a dozen of you this morning. Where's my peeps that were on the beach with me this morning? Can I get a woo? Okay, there was 12 of you out there and 100 of you just yelled. Okay. So we've got 88 liars in the room. So we went out on the beach this morning and we just got back in touch with Mother Nature. We took our shoes off, we touched the surface of the earth, we sat on the beach, we got sunlight into our eyes. The sun is not our enemy. And we did a few rounds of breath work. You know, it's astounding to me that we've been taught to fear the sun. You know, over the last 50 years, if you were to actually chart the incidence of skin cancer with the parabolic use of sunscreen, you would see that these two are superimposable. 18 brands of sunscreen have been pulled from the market since 2018 for directly causing skin cancer, and yet we've been taught to fear the sun. When God made us, he made us with the ability to make one vitamin. Every single one of you, if I pulled the blood work of everyone in this room, there would be hundreds of vitamins in your bloodstream. You are only capable of making one, and it's called vitamin D3, cholecalciferol. So how important do you think that is to human function? If it's the only one that human beings make on our own. You know, a deficiency in vitamin D3 was the second leading cause of morbidity in COVID. There are links to skyrocketing rates of breast cancer. And one of the other profound discoveries that actually made me leave my previous industry and do what I do now was that the realization, first of all, that there were human beings on the other side of the spreadsheets that I was working on. This was not just data, these were human beings. But secondly, that the reason why the majority of humanity is not living longer, healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives are for what we called modifiable risk factors, meaning lifestyle changes could have dramatically extended their life. One of my favorite things to do is I make two bold promises every time I take the stage. And the first promise is, if you do what I ask you to do today, it will add not only 7 years to your lifespan, but 7 years to your health span. That's a fact. And the second is, I will try to take some time at the end and take questions from the crowd. And rarely is there a time that I cannot take anything that you or a loved one is suffering from, and right here from this stage in front of this audience, tell you exactly what raw material is missing from their body that is causing that condition to exist. We've been fed so many fallacies that we inherit disease from our ancestors, that genetically inherited disease runs in our family, heart disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, OCD, that because they run in our family, we genetically inherited this. We manufactured that because if I can get you to believe that you have a genetically inherited disease, I can get you to subscribe to a lifetime of medication. And so, woo! Don't woo for that one, woo for the other one. Yeah. All right, you're probably the one that said you were on the beach with me this morning. No, I'm just kidding. No, but that does deserve a woo, because the next time, I say this to crowds all the time, the next time your doctor tells you that you have a familial disease or you have a genetically inherited disease, I want you to look your doctor in the eye and say, what gene did I inherit from my ancestor that is causing this condition to exist? You see, yeah. Woo! Because we mapped the entire human genome. We know every gene in the human body. And if there was a gene for heart disease or type 2 diabetes or hypertension or hypothyroid or any of these other conditions, we would know it. But the reason why we don't know that gene is because that gene doesn't exist. And if that gene doesn't exist, it means that that condition does not exist. Human beings are not as sick or diseased or as pathological as we think we are. We are nutrient deficient. Right? Minerals, vitamins, amino acids, raw materials. The leading cause right now in the United States of early demise, and one of the leading causes that is robbing people in this very room from being the most optimal version of themselves, is something called metabolic syndrome. You know, 77% of our military-aged men and women do not qualify for military service due to poor health. 77%. That's not 77% of the population. 77% of the men and women that are age qualified to enter the military cannot because of poor health. We are the #1 spender on healthcare worldwide. We lead the nation, we lead the world in 6 things: morbid obesity, type 2 diabetes, multiple chronic disease in a single biome, infant mortality, and maternal mortality. And yet we spend $4.5 trillion a year on healthcare. Where has it all gone wrong? It's gone wrong because we've begun in the soil, and we've increased the distance from the soil to the table. You know, we talked about this last night, if you guys were in the suite with us last night, about all of this blue zone research and how there's no continuity between diets in the blue zone. It's not these dogmatic diets, keto, paleo, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian. It's none of those things. It's eating whole foods. Sardinia ate the largest amount of carbohydrates of any nation in the world and has hypercentenarians. Singapore eats the highest meat consumption of any country in the world and has hypercentenarians. The Mediterranean is full of centenarians and they eat the highest fat consumption in the world. None of them are eating a processed diet. The other 2 non-negotiables in all of these blue zones were sense of community and purpose and mobility into later in life. The simple things that really extend our life. And so metabolic syndrome is the combination of high blood sugar, high blood pressure, abdominal obesity, high blood fat, and low HDL cholesterol. Notice I don't talk about high LDL cholesterol. One of the really interesting myths that we uncovered in the mortality space was that there is 0 link between elevated LDL cholesterol and cardiovascular disease. Your doctors are not going to like that. Right, because one of the largest and most profitable industries in the world is the statin industry. And as soon as your LDL cholesterol goes a little above a certain number, about 99, they tell you need to be on a statin for life. And you go, why do I need to be on a statin? Well, because your mother has high cholesterol and your father's brother has high cholesterol. You have familial hypercholesterolemia, which is complete nonsense. The same thing has happened with autoimmune diseases. How many of you either have or know someone who's suffering from an autoimmune disease? Look at the number of hands in the room. I just want to pause for that for just a second. You know, the immune system is fascinatingly complex, but it's also very, very intelligent. It was designed by God. And when you are told that you have an autoimmune disease, you're led to believe that you just woke up one morning and your immune system is attacking the colon, right? So now you have Crohn's. Or it's attacking your thyroid. Now you have Hashimoto's, which I call Hashi nonsense. Or it's attacking the lacrimal gland in your eye, and you have Sjogren's, or it's attacking the myelin sheath, and you have multiple sclerosis. I actually met a woman last night that I've known for some time that fixed multiple sclerosis. I don't know if you're here, if you're comfortable saying it right there, with dietary and lifestyle changes, right? So what if we just took a step back? Those of you that have or know someone that has an autoimmune disease, what if we just took a step back and said, hey, wait a second. What if God didn't make a mistake? What if the immune system is acting properly? We just need to figure out why it's there. And then we went and supported the immune system's fight. You see, all kinds of invaders come into our body. Parasites, bacteria, heavy metals, mold, mycotoxins. When these things get into your body and they get around your healthy cells, they don't hide like this. They hide like this. And so what happens when the immune system is after that and it's hiding inside of here? It has to bust the door down. It has to get through that cell wall. And the way it gets through the cell wall is it manufactures an antibody to that cell because it's harboring the invader, not because it's made a mistake. You know, if somebody robbed the bank and ran into this room and locked that door, the police would bust that door down to come in here and capture the perpetrator. The immune system is no different. It is relentless, it is dogmatic, and it will chase a virus, a parasite, a pathogen, a mold spore, a mycotoxin into every corner of your body. And if it has to, it will manufacture an antibody to your own cell to get that invader out. And yet we put immunosuppressants on the immune system and anti-inflammatories to knock down the inflammation, and those diseases stay chronic for decades, right? Mine is a message of hope. We can heal ourselves. The body has an incredible ability to heal. This is the greatest pharmacy on the surface of Mother Earth. And if we would spend more time studying human physiology, we would find out that we can tap into that pharmacy through things like fasting, groundwork, breath work, sunlight, dietary and lifestyle changes, minerals, amino acids, nutrients. But most of us, even in this room, as much as you agree with what I say, your habits do not align with those goals that you have. Because life is not a collection of goals, and it's not a collection of priorities. It is a collection of habits. If your goal is to lose weight, but you don't develop the habits of somebody who wants to lose weight, you will never reach that goal. And so one of the things I'm doing is building a community of people so I can actually help people transform their habits in little chunks, right? So that over a series of months, you become the ultimate human version of yourself, right? Woo! I hope you guys will go on that journey with me, because I am in the process of building an army with Bobby Kennedy and with others in it. Woo! Yeah. That was a godsend. You know, one of the greatest blessings was that, you know, two men from polar opposite ends of the spectrum, I don't care where you are on the political aisle, but two polar opposite ends of the spectrum met over the sliver of healing humanity, right? And you're going to see real changes in public policy. It's a very exciting time, because finally somebody has the intestinal fortitude. I was going to say cojones, but, well, I'll say cojones, whatever. It's a Christian audience, I'll throw that out there. Dirty little birds, you. And to actually go after the corruption in our nutritional research. You know, 74% of our nutritional research in the United States that forms our public policy at the National Institute of Health is funded by private industry. And then what we do is we privatize the profits and we socialize the expense. The expense goes on to us, profit goes into a narrow pool of providers. This is how you get a food pyramid that says that Lucky Charms is more nutritious than grass-fed steak, right? So hopefully we're going to end all that. I want to show you guys this chart. Yeah, there's a quiz on this later, so start taking notes, all right? What do they say? Don't talk about science, don't talk about religion, and don't talk about politics. Well, we already hit Jesus. I'll hammer Joe Biden in a minute. And in fact, it was at your event. It was at your event in Dallas, or Texas, a year ago, or a year and a half ago, and somebody tried to bait me into the political conversation, and they were like, what do you think of Joe Biden? And I said, at the time, I was like, look, I'll just put it this way. If a spaceship landed on Earth, and the aliens got out and said, take me to your leader, who wants to be the one to introduce him at that time to Joe Biden? I mean, raise your hand, right? So that's how I explained that. I said, I'll just leave it at that. But this is a chart of your cellular biology. The reason why I put this, by the way, I have committed this to memory. You don't need to. I just want you to know I'm smart. But this is a chart of your cellular biology. This is the transactions going on inside of every cell in your body 300 billion times a day. You have 32 trillion cells in your body, and every 84 days, all of those live cellular structures turn over. Every 84 days. So if you came back and sat in the same seat 84 days from today, you would be a completely different human being, right down to the last cell. So you'll never convince me that we cannot heal from whatever we are facing if we replace every single live cell in our body every 84 days. Why not? The question is, what frequency are we going to send those cells? What is my belief system? What does my community look like? Do I actually have real connection? Right? Because now we live about 14 inches from our face in a little 4x6 square, and this is where we believe that we're connected. That is the most disconnected electronic universe in the world. Connection comes from interaction with other human beings. We knew in the mortality space that if you wanted to cut a human being's life expectancy in half at any age, put them in isolation. And yet what's happening is we are further and further isolating ourselves because we've exchanged being busy and entertained
with being connected. And we become further and further and further isolated. And that's why I deeply love talking to groups like you. Because I get energy from you guys. Like I can tell, whew, I really do, thank you. I really consider it a blessing to be here and for you to even just give me your time to hear this message. But what's fascinating about this, 300 billion times going on inside your body, is about what you will not see on this chart. What you don't see anywhere on this chart are any chemicals, no synthetics, and not a single pharmaceutical. So you tell me, how can a deficiency in our cellular biology be solved by something that our cellular biology doesn't use? Right? So when we become, what you will see on this chart are vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and nutrients. I had a woman come to me on that steps 15 minutes ago. I don't know where she's standing right now, and she came up to me, and right there, with her hand raised right there. And she thanked me. Do you mind if I share your story, by the way? Just throw your stuff out there, your phone number. Yeah, I got your medical records. Can we pull her medical records up on the screen? And she said, I just wanted to thank you. You saved my husband's life. And she said, you know, we came to and saw a stage talk of yours, and my husband was dying of a deficiency in B vitamins. And he put those raw materials back into his body, healed his body. Now he's sitting here today because there he is. He's jumping around today. I'm about to ask him for 15% of his business because, I mean, that's a fair trade. Save your life, I get 15% of everything you make for life. So my attorney and I will meet you the back door when we're done. There's no free lunches in this world, brother. But this is fascinating. And if I could just had time to tell you the stories of people that were so hopeless, that thought they were trapped in whatever they were facing, ADD, ADHD, OCD, manic depression, bipolar. We don't have a mental illness crisis in this country. We have a lack of mental fitness. That's what we have. You know that 90% of the serotonin in your body is right here. Serotonin is the main driver of mood. So if you don't have it here, you can't have it here. And when you're deficient in serotonin in the gut, you become deficient in the brain. And the deficiency in serotonin in the brain is called depression. A deficiency in dopamine is called addiction. If you've ever been an addict, or you've ever known a true addict, you will know that their addiction has a tendency to shift. Right? Alcoholics become drug addicts become workaholics, workaholics become workoutaholics. The addiction continues to shift. Why is that? Because they're not addicted to the compound, they're searching for the dopamine. The absence of dopamine is the presence of addiction. And so when you are deficient in the neurotransmitter dopamine, you engage in dopamine-seeking behavior, and you are called and labeled an addict. Not a single addict, if you've ever been one or known one, woke up one morning and said, I want to get really banged up. They woke up one morning and said, I want to feel normal. And in the search for normalcy, they developed an addiction. And nobody treated the deficiency in dopamine. Dopamine is made in this cycle right here. We take phenylalanine and tyrosine, we methylate it into dopamine. If you don't have methylfolate, you can't do this. We take tryptophan, the famous amino acid that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving dinner, and we take tryptophan and we turn that into serotonin. What if you can't convert tryptophan to serotonin? What if you're deficient in the amino acid tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid? What if you have a deficiency in that amino acid? You don't have the raw material to make serotonin. Your serotonin level plummets. It drops in the brain, and now you're told you have depression. And then we bring in a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI, to fix the problem. I'll never believe that I had like a 30-year broken relationship with my mother, for example. I don't, I love my mom, but for example, and you're gonna fix it with some kind of neuroplasticity altering chemical that you're gonna put in my brain. You're gonna fix the broken relationship I have with my mom? Yep, that's why you're depressed. So this is really, really exciting stuff because it restores our faith back in humanity and mankind. It restores our faith back in the ability of the body to heal itself. So I wanna take this journey one step further. You know,
if we looked at what goes on inside of human beings, I talked about this last night. Generally what happens, and I would say that about, in a room this size, about 60% of you are walking around at 50% of your true state of normal. Like you have actually forgotten what it feels like to feel normal. You have accepted something as a consequence of aging. You lay down to go to sleep at night, your mind wakes up, it robs you of deep sleep because you're a ruminator. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you my sleep hack. And I'll show you my sleep scores. I think I posted them this morning. I posted them yesterday too. Even with my intense travel schedule, I'm regularly, consistently getting sleep scores between 96 and 100%. Do you guys want to learn that secret? Okay. That one's $10.99. I am going to charge for that one. No, we're going to talk about how we hack our sleep, because sleep is our human superpower, right? During deep sleep, our brain detoxifies. During REM sleep, all our memories and our learning is assembled in our brain. So you wonder why, if you don't get good sleep, you wake up with brain fog and loss of short-term recall and no waking energy, right? And you feel cloudy and you feel foggy. That's because your brain is full of inflammatory compounds. So if I was to pick one villain, I would say that inflammation is the root of all evil. Inflammation, I don't want to steal a phrase from the Bible. I'm working on changing the King James Version of the Bible to, from the love of money to inflammation. I'm not having any luck with that. That was a joke. Like, okay, I'm not doing that. But inflammation truly is the root of all evil. Here's what happens in human beings. One thing goes wrong that causes everything. And what we end up doing is we think that the whole system's gone to hell in a handbasket, right? Because if I have a leaky gut, for example, and my serotonin drops, then I have my mood sags, and now I have a mood disorder. As that gut continues to leak into the bloodstream, the immune system flares up and tries to protect us from contents that should stay in our gut from entering our bloodstream, and now I have an autoimmune disease. And as the inflammatory cascade continues to rise, we get a rise in a level of something called homocysteine. Homocysteine causes our vascular system to contract. And when we make the pipes smaller in a fixed system, the pressure goes up, and now you have high blood pressure. And as your blood pressure rises, you don't rid yourself of heavy metals. Every one of you eats a small amount of heavy metals every day. If you're eating cacao, or if you're eating chocolate, or if you're eating even mineral salts, your heavy metals start to rise. Heavy metals have an affinity for the thyroid. They embed themselves in the thyroid. The immune system chases them into the thyroid, and now you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. You have your second autoimmune disease, and so on, and so on, and so on. One thing went wrong that caused everything. I put this chart up here because I can show you what happens when just you become resistant to insulin, when just your blood sugar rises, all of the consequences that happen because of that single event. So I want to talk about how do we not let that happen. Are you guys ready to get to work and talk about some science? Okay. All right. So they say, don't talk a lot about science. So I'm going to do an experiment for you. Can I get a volunteer out of the crowd to come up? Yeah, right there in the black hat backwards. You look honest. Yeah. He didn't say he was on the beach with me this morning when he wasn't. What I'm going to show you is what happens in our bodies. This is one of the most, you know what a fan of hydrogen water I am. So hydrogen is the lightest element in the universe. It's also the most prevalent element in the universe. You're probably 67% hydrogen by weight. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a regular glass of water, and we're going to turn it into an antioxidant bomb. First of all, when we say something is an antioxidant, what does that mean? Can anybody tell me what an antioxidant is? It helps your immune system, but what is it? How does something qualify to be an antioxidant? What is it? It lowers free radicals. That's what it does. So an antioxidant, when you say blueberries are antioxidants, that's very true. But what does that mean? It means that they donate electrons. That's what being an antioxidant means. It means that it donates electrons. So you can measure the ability for something to donate electrons or steal electrons. It's called its ORP. It's oxidative reduction potential. You start at 0, and as something gets positive, it is causing inflammation. As something gets negative, it is reducing inflammation. Blueberries are very negative, right? So if I took a meter called an ORP meter, which you can actually order off of Amazon for about I don't know, about $8 if you want to do this little experiment at home. Here, you're going to hold that. And then I'm going to have you read that number. And all I'm going to do is just take this bottle of water that we're drinking all the time, full of microplastics. I had to throw that in there. We're going to stick this ORP meter in here, and I want you to just tell me what it's reading.
175.
175.
173.
173. So it stops at about 173. Yeah. So that water, while it will hydrate you, is causing inflammation. That is elemental magnesium from the earth. This is on the base of most streams all over the world. They're in rock beds. It used to be very prevalent in our soil. Elemental magnesium, if you press it into a tablet and you drop that tablet into water, I want to show you what happens. So I'm going to drop this elemental magnesium tablet into that water, and I'm just going to measure it again. Give it 1 second. I want to hopefully see it go negative.
120, 86, 07, negative 200.
Negative 250, 270. Now it's at negative, is that what?
250.
Negative 250.
Negative 253, negative 260, negative 272.
It's almost to negative 300 because all I did was add hydrogen gas to that water. The importance of this gas in human beings is that rarely talked about is the side of our circulatory system that is not controlled by the heart. You know that only 30% of the blood circulating in your body is done by your heart. People think that our heart circulates all the blood in your body. You have, thank you, by the way. Can you guys give him a hand? All right. Yeah, whack that whole thing down. Yes. By the way, I bought about like 30 boxes of these for you guys. So I want to give them to you. I'm actually going to give a box away free to everybody in this room because it is the greatest discovery of my adult lifetime, and I truly believe that hydrogen water, starting your day by having this is called H2 tabs. The research on this is clear. There are over 1,300 peer-reviewed studies on hydrogen water, and hydrogen, when it gets into the body, because it's so small, it diffuses through your tissues and it dramatically drops your inflammation. So tomorrow morning, if I give you one of these boxes of hydrogen tablets, or if I don't have enough, I'm going to give you a code. You can just get it sent to you online. You're going to drop this tablet in a glass of water, and you're just going to drink it back in the morning, and you are going to instantly feel your brain fog go away. You're going to feel the drop in inflammation because we're just going to restore the proper balance of hydrogen ions, right? Simple, but really profound. It will start to replace your need for coffee because you will be so clean, so clear, so awake. So if our heart only circulates 30% of the blood in our body, how does the other 70% of our blood circulate? It's done by an activity called vasomotor. Think of a snake swallowing a mouse. Right? With 63,000 miles of blood vessel in your body, none of you has a heart that is strong enough to pump blood from the center of your chest to the tip of your toes through all the capillaries in your brain, your liver, your lungs, your pancreas, your kidneys. It cannot do that. You need an activity called vasomotor. You need this peristaltic activity of like a snake swallowing a mouse. This is the first part of our circulatory system to go bad. The reason why most people start wearing readers in their 40s, 50s, and 60s is not because their eyesight's bad. By the way, these are blue light blocking glasses. They are not readers. I just wear them to block blue light. They're functional. But the reason why your eyesight starts to go bad is not because your eyes are going bad. It's because of the vasomotor activity. Your eye is compromised. That's the same way we get tingly feet and tingly toes. It's the same way that our skin begins to age and we get fine lines and wrinkles and we get a reduction in collagen, elastin, and fibrin. So if you actually want to restore healthy skin, you restore the blood flow, that microcapillary flow to the surface of your skin. And how do you do that? You drop the inflammation. If we just had the right balance of hydrogen that we used to have in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, you would see our skin accelerate at a slower age. You would see less cardiovascular disease. You would actually see less conditions related to inflammatory foundations like autism, Alzheimer's, dementia, early onset cognitive decline, because our microvascular system is compromised. When you go to the doctor and they examine your cardiac system, they do a cardiac workup, they're looking at the 30% of your circulation that the heart does, ignoring the other 70% of your blood flow. So we're going to start to cater to that 70%. Does that sound cool? All right. I love it when I talk about science and you guys like this. And so I didn't get up here to sell you guys a product. I've only developed one in my lifetime, and it is pressed elemental magnesium turning into high part per million hydrogen water, because I truly believe it can change the trajectory of your life. So I have 26 minutes left, and what I'd really love to do is I'd love to open the floor to a few questions, and I'd just love to have a Q&A. I can either keep talking or we can open to Q&A. Do you guys want to do Q&A? All right, this is my favorite part. Yes, ma'am. This is where the rubber really meets the road. You have a question about Alzheimer's?
They say that it's familial.
Ah, my favorite. They say it's familial. Here we go.
Do you want me to repeat that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about Alzheimer's, and everyone says it's familial.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband's mother had it really bad, and I worry about my husband all the time.
Yes.
So what's
Okay,
your
first of
thoughts on
all,
that?
yeah, you might not like this, but he's just tuning you out. He doesn't have Alzheimer's. No, I'm just kidding. It's totally kidding. You're like, do the dishes. He's like, where were you? I don't know where I was last night. I don't have any idea. I mean, there's pictures of me drinking beers with the boys. I don't remember it. It's okay, so 40% of Alzheimer's is men pretending to have cognitive decline. So there is a predisposition to Alzheimer's. That is the ApoA2 gene. That is a predisposition to Alzheimer's. Just like the BRCA gene is a predisposition to breast cancer, it is not your destiny to have breast cancer. It is not your destiny to have Alzheimer's. Let's take a step back and say, what causes Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, early onset cognitive decline, poor focus, poor concentration, which is where it begins? It is inflammation in the brain. When you get inflammation in the brain, and one of the main causes of Alzheimer's is something called type 3 diabetes. How many of you have heard of type 3 diabetes? Because you guys see me online, you little cheaters. You're like, yeah, I watched your video, now I know it's type 3 diabetes. It's insulin resistance in the brain. Most of your doctors don't even know that the brain is so crack addicted to sugar that it makes its own insulin. We think the pancreas is the only place that makes insulin. The brain also makes insulin. The brain's nasty. The brain's like the little Kim Jong-un of dictators. It sits up there like little Kim Jong-un, and it takes everything for itself. If it wants calcium, it'll leach it from the bones. If it wants amino acids, it'll strip it from lean muscle. And if it wants sugar, it will activate a receptor on the back of your tongue, and it will give you a dopamine reward for giving it sugar. It will actually drug you to get what it wants. And it's not because you like sugar, it's because you are addicted to sugar. You are addicted to that dopamine ding, because sugar for a short period of time makes you feel good. Doesn't just taste good, makes you feel good. By the way, there are entire laboratories full of PhDs all over this country that are doing nothing but studying receptors in your body that are sensitive to dopamine, so that they can make foods, not foods that you crave, but foods you are addicted to. Right? In fact, the largest acquisitions on Wall Street in our time were tobacco companies buying food companies in the 90s. They took the addictive research from tobacco and they moved it into food. So there are actually researchers designing foods to be addictive. So back to Alzheimer's. So anything that lowers the inflammatory cascade, they say that amyloid plaques cause Alzheimer's. They don't. Amyloid plaques are the byproduct of what happens in the brain. And by the time you're accumulating amyloid plaques, you actually have the condition. So how do we reduce our risk of Alzheimer's? Number one, we have to get highly processed foods out of our diet. These are called forever chemicals. We spray glyphosate on fields in the United States that do not have whiteflies for thousands of miles, and yet we still spray for whiteflies 200 metric tons of glyphosate onto our crops every year, even though the pest that we're spraying for doesn't even exist. right? We just keep piling the chemicals on there. So one is getting highly processed foods out of your diet. The second, I would definitely be drinking hydrogenated water, and I'm going to be trying to reduce my inflammatory cascade. The best way to reduce inflammation in the brain is to get deep sleep. Sleep is our human superpower. If you are not sleeping, you are not healing. There is a system in the brain called the glymphatic system. We have lymph nodes in the body, right, that swell when we get a sore throat. You have a glymphatic system in the brain. It is only active during deep sleep. So if I was worried about getting Alzheimer's or dementia or early onset cognitive decline or any other inflammatory condition in the brain, I would prioritize sleep. I would second, get off of highly processed foods. And third, I would be taking anti-inflammatory compounds like resveratrol and hydrogen water. He doesn't sleep well. Okay. All right, you want my sleep hack? Real quick? Okay. Woo! Dude, I love you for sleep. I love you guys. And I love that you guys get excited about science. See, I get energy from you guys when you get excited about science. Because my wife is tired of hearing about it. Every night I wake her up with like some new research study and I'm like, look at this, babe. Like the only one she actually got excited about was when I told her that women have more brain cells than men. And and then she looks at me and she goes, duh. And I go, babe, I am going to spend the balance of my lifetime finding a study to disprove that. And it has only gotten worse. So I don't even talk about it anymore. But yeah, women actually have more brain cells than men. I have higher processing capability than men, sad as it is. So let's talk about sleep. Okay, sleep is the most bullied thing in our schedule, right? We treat sleep like the stepchild in our life. If I ask the majority of you, what do you do to go to sleep? You look at me sort of blank and go, I get in bed. Well, what time do you get in bed? Sometimes 10:30, sometimes 1 a.m., sometimes 11:15. Well, what do you do to go to sleep? What do you mean? I lay down. Okay, so we are circadian creatures. Our bodies crave habit. They crave routine. And if you don't control your schedule, you have to control your habits. You have to control your sleep habits. So I will teach you the sleep routine that I use every night. It is portable. I travel all over the world with it. If you saw my sleep challenge that I did a few months ago, Sage and I did 9 cities in 11 days on opposite sides of the world, and I recorded 98 to 100% sleep scores every night. And I posted it every time. I actually connected my Whoop, so I couldn't cheat, to a group, and it automatically uploaded into our sleep challenge group. Were any of you guys on that sleep challenge? 2 of you? Great. This is awesome. I'm really doing well. That's probably why I'm going broke. But yeah, I had this sleep challenge, and so it is about being intentional about sleep. And so here's what I do. For those of you that ruminate at night, you lay down to go to sleep and your mind wakes up. One of the best ways to break catecholamines in the brain is to do a contrast shower. So I will go into the shower, wherever I am, I'll turn the water on warm, I'll turn around and run it as hot as I can on the back of my neck. Then I will step out of that stream of water, you're not gonna like this, turn it as cold as it will go, and step back into that stream of water and deal with it for 30 seconds, guys. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. Most of us are accelerating our age because we are seeking comfort aggressively. 30 seconds. No, it will not wake you up, but it will break the catecholamine cycle. It will separate your day from your night. You get out of a contrast shower, and that's when you do your oral care. Most of you just go to the sink and you just blindly brush your teeth. Right? I want you to switch your toothbrush to a soft toothbrush. I want you to drop the fluoride toothpaste and exchange it for something called hydroxyapatite. I want you to get a $6 tongue scraper off of Amazon, scrape your tongue, then I want you to floss, and then take a scoop of organic coconut oil, put it in your mouth, and swish with it for about a minute and spit it in the trash. It's called oil pulling. And you will have completed the most comprehensive oral care routine that you can. Our oral cavity is connected to so many conditions in the body. So second, you do your oral routine. That will take you about 2 minutes. And then what I want you to do is go into your room, and I want you to surgically remove all the light from the room. And by that I mean take a piece of tape and put it over your fire alarm. Stitch your curtains together. Throw a towel over your clock on the nightstand. You would not believe how little candle wattage it takes passing through your eyelids to raise your cortisol. The worst thing to raise cortisol, what is the worst thing that skyrockets your cortisol? It's all these things that are pointing at me right now. There's about 100 of them like radiating me. I got my vest on, but this is actually a weighted vest. This thing weighs 12 pounds. I'm actually starting to sweat under here. It's just a functional vest. But so your candle wattage, that light passes through your eyes and it starts telling you to wake up. So if you're going to be on your phone in bed, because most of the time when I tell people not to do that, it's hopeless, go to the settings in your phone and turn on the red light setting so that at least you stop emitting blue light, which skyrockets cortisol as you're sleeping. You're looking at your phone at night, that blue wavelength of light is raising your cortisol, same as a sunrise, and you're telling your brain to wake up but your body to go to bed. The other thing I want you to invest in is like a $6 soft cotton full face eye mask from Amazon. Just get a cotton eye mask, not the one with the little straps, so that you are completely in the dark. Turn your phone on airplane mode, set it on the nightstand, and then when you lay down in bed, I want you to do exactly this breathwork exercise. It's called natural Xanax for a reason. And all you do, with your eyes closed, is you take a long, slow inhale through your nose, you pause for 3 seconds, and you breathe out through a straw. This is going to sound crazy, but it works. While you're doing that, I want you to take all the thoughts that are running around in your head. Did I get everything on my grocery list? Did my belt match my shoes today? That was a nasty comment on Instagram. I can't believe she said that. And I want you to pull those thoughts into your lungs, and I want you to breathe them right out of your body. I promise you, you will not make it to the 10th breath just doing that. And what will start to happen is if you do that exact routine every night, what will happen is like the sleep-wake cycle of the sun, your body will lock into that routine and go, oh, it's time to go to bed. It's because we don't do the same thing to go to sleep every day. We do different things every night to go to sleep and expect the same result. We need to do the same thing every time so we get the same result. Because we're circadian creatures. We have a biorhythmic clock in our body. We are actually tied to the sleep-wake cycle of the sun, so we need to tell our bodies that this is the time to go to bed. And if you really have ruminating thoughts, it's not my product, I have no affiliation with this company. There is a magnesium product by BioOptimizers. It is called Magnesium Breakthrough. I have never seen it not work on somebody with ruminating thoughts. Don't tranquilize yourself to go to sleep. You take trazodone or Xanax or zolpidem nitrate or diazepam or any of those other things, you are actually blindfolding the brain's view of blood oxygen, and you will suffocate for 6 hours. And you will wake up the next day and say, I don't like taking Tylenol PM, or I don't like taking this or that because it's still in my system the next morning. That's not true. That drug's been out of your system for hours. You are feeling the effects of having suffocated for 6 hours. Tranquilitics are terrible ways to sleep. Not being conscious is not sleeping. Okay, that's what Michael Jackson thought, and we see how that worked out. So, if you take that magnesium supplement, if you're sensitive to magnesium, take magnesium 3 and 8, and I promise you, you do that for 7 nights in a row, and set an alarm so that you put yourself to bed at the same time every night. You will see your sleep cycle start to improve. The final tip that I will make is no alcohol on any day that you want to sleep well. Alcohol 100% of the times is sleep disruptive because while you're sleeping, alcohol is being converted to acetaldehyde. When the liver converts it to acetaldehyde, your pH in your blood drops and becomes acidic. You cannot sleep with your pH of your blood dropping. And the final thing I'll say is stop eating 2 hours before bedtime. If you apply those 7 rules, I promise you, you will have the best sleep of your night. Yes, sir. What about snoring? Usually snoring is related to inflammation in the back of the nasopharynx, and what happens is your head tilts back, and so the pressure goes onto your nasopharynx, and the flaps in the back of your nasopharynx start to create that snoring sound. Raising your head 15 degrees usually can stop snoring. In fact, there's an 8 sleep mattress that will detect snoring and actually inflate a pillow to raise your mattress 15 degrees while you sleep. Yes, ma'am, in the black right there. Oh, constant muscle spasms. So constant muscle spasms, just like migraine headaches, generally come from the same place. Remember what I said about nutrient deficient? The majority of us in this room right now, more than 70% of you, are mineral deficient. Our soil has no minerals left in it. Do you know that the US FDA stopped making food manufacturers put the mineral content on their labels? You know why? Because if you compared a soil lineage study from 1945 to 2025, it would be catastrophic how few minerals are in our soil. We need minerals in our body for our muscles to function properly. And you can get those. My favorite biohack is something called Baja Gold Sea Salt. A $15 bag of this mineral salt will last you 5 years. It's BAJA Gold Sea Salt. It will last you 5 years. Wake up in the morning, take a half a teaspoon of that, put it in a glass of water, stir it up, drop a H2 tab in there and add hydrogen gas and drink it back. Hydrate, mineralize, and de-inflame the body first thing in the morning. That will very likely put migraine headaches into your past. How many of you have actually followed my advice on migraine headaches and adding salt and have had your migraine headaches go away? Put your hands up nice and high. Look at that, guys. These are people that ended chronic migraines with sea salt, right? Because the brain doesn't have pain receptors. The brain, you think the pain is coming from your brain. It's not. Your brain is not capable of sending a pain signal. Where does the pain come from? From the covering of the brain, the dura, over top of your brain. It hates being stretched or contracted. What determines whether it's doing this or this? Sodium. We've been taught to fear sodium. That is a fallacy that sodium leads to hypertension. I like that. We're really trying to pack it in because I got 11 minutes left. But if any of you had a blood pressure so high right now that it became life-threatening, when the paramedics showed up, you know what the first thing they would give you? Salt IV. What happens if you're so dehydrated you land in the emergency room? What's the first thing they give you? Salt IV. You mean they give you salt IV for dehydration, salt IV for high blood pressure, but we shouldn't take salt? Yes, sir.
So my name is Renzo Montiuti. Oh. Hi, Gary. My name is Renzo Montiuti, and my question is, can our conscious thoughts affect our gene expression? If so, how?
Wow, that is a really, really good question. Absolutely, amen. It can. The Bible says, so a man thinketh he shall become. That is partially referring to how we see ourselves, how we visualize ourselves. You know, Oprah Winfrey finally lost weight, and she actually credited a philosopher named Gary Zukov, who wrote Seed of the Soul. He wrote Soul Stories. And she credited a guy named Gary Zukov for being the only one that was ever able to help her lose weight. And when they interviewed Gary, they said, what did you do to Oprah that caused her to lose weight? And he said, I stopped having her see herself as a fat person. You would be surprised how important your psychophysiology is. We have our psychology. If you can think of an image or see an image or meet a person and feel aroused, even have a physical response to that, that is demonstrating how your emotional state can affect your body. So if we have the capability to do that, to actually have arousal, libido, from something that we think about or something that we see, then imagine how damaging our thoughts are if we don't wake in gratitude and practice gratitude and give thanks for what we have. If we wake in the past, you know, depression is ruminating on the past. Anxiety is ruminating on the future, which is why it's so important to be present. Because anxiety is a fear of the future. Depression is dragging something from your past. You can't be depressed about something that didn't happen, and you can't be anxious about something that's already happened. And so it's so important for us to be present, and absolutely our thoughts and how we see ourselves, this matters in our cellular physiology. Do you know that there is a law in physics called constructive interference? Every emotion has a wavelength. When two wavelengths of equal length meet, the size of the frequency doubles. This is why the universal law of attraction is an actual law in physics. It's not a metaphysical concept. It's actually proven in physics. So I would wholly agree with you on that. Yeah, yes. What's that? Tennis elbow. Yeah, tennis elbow is a repetitive use injury. And one of the best things for that is cold water immersion, hydrogen gas, and a peptide called BPC157. I want to invite you guys to something because, you know what, when I speak on stages like this and I'm done, so many people have so many questions. And when I was previously working with 10X Health, I started a private coaching program. And 1 hour of my time, I was charging $50,000. I know. Get ready. And I booked out for 14 weeks. And about 6 weeks into it, I realized this is not a way to help the masses. I'm never going to impact you. I'm going to make myself a lot of money, but I'm never going to impact the masses charging 50 grand for an hour of my time, no matter how many weeks I book out. And so I decided to stop doing that, and then I put everything into a 10-week coaching program. I spent 9 months, and I built a coaching program that starts at day one and talks about sleep, breath work, morning sunlight, whole food dieting, lifestyle, spiritual well-being, exercise, the best that biohacking has to offer. And it wasn't shortly after I launched that I realized that most people can't afford that, and I'm still not impacting the masses. So I started a community called the VIP community. It's $97 a month. I'm dedicating the balance of my adult lifetime to that community. I want to invite you all to join that because I am trying to build an army of like-minded people that have been educated enough to be inspired to make a change in their life. Everything that is in my 50 grand an hour coaching program, everything that is in my entire course is in there for free. You can ask me anything. We do hours and hours of Q&A calls live every month. I put the entire 10-week course on becoming the ultimate human. I bring experts onto the show, Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. If we talk about muscle, I bring an expert on muscle. If we talk about autoimmune, I bring an expert on autoimmune. And I actually take people from my VIP community, I bring them onto a virtual stage, and we heal them over 10 weeks from whatever ailment they are suffering from, and we do it live in front of everybody, so you can't hide from the results. And we do mold spores, mycotoxins, viruses, parasites, pathogens, and some of the stories coming out of this community are just astounding. So it's $97. I want you to sign up for that. If you use this code EXP, I'm going to give you I think it's 10% discount on that, but I'm going to send every single person that signs up a box of those H2 tabs. Cancel next month if you want. So I'm going to send those to you so you can add those to your morning routine and permanently change the trajectory of your life, because I don't want, when I leave this stage, for this to be the last contact that we have with each other. I want us to continue this journey. So thank you. So I hope that I see all of you guys in there. You can join me this month. If you don't like it, quit next month. But at least you'll get a box of H2 tabs. Yes, sir. Two-part. Yes.
So why is there such a large prevalence of kids so much with autism?
Why is there such a large prevalence of kids with autism? That is a great question, and it actually got asked last night in the suite. So autism is a neuroinflammatory condition. The greater the level of inflammation in the brain, the further that child travels on the spectrum. The lower the inflammation in the brain, the less they travel on the spectrum. So this is a neuroinflammatory condition, and it's multifactorial. In 1960, we had 6 vaccines. Today, we have 72. I was born in 1970. I had 9 vaccines growing up. Today, if you're born in 2025, you will have 72 vaccines on the schedule. I'm not anti-vaccine. I am pro-real vaccines. A vaccine prevents the infection and the spread. You don't get infected. If you take the polio vaccine, you don't get polio or spread polio. So there are dozens of vaccines where you actually still get the infection and you actually get the spread. The challenge with vaccines, in my opinion, you are about to see this change under Bobby Kennedy. I mean, what a blessing that man is. And I have decided to dedicate the balance of my adult lifetime to that VIP community and to the MAHA movement, because if I'm going to go down for anything, it's going to be going down trying to change the corruption in our public policy. Yeah. Yeah. So if I disappear, please open an investigation, right? They're like, oh, he was in Cabo and he just wandered out and drowned himself. Nope, I'm happy. I'm in a great marriage. I got plenty of money. Everything's going really good in my life. I did not hang myself on a bed sheet. Right? Don't believe it. So open the investigation. So, you know, and vaccines are not actually subject to the same rigorous safety trials that the majority of every pharmaceutical in this country goes through. And I'll give you an example. We test a vaccine for safety, and it passes. And then we take that vaccine, that attenuated virus, and we embed it in an aluminum. We embed it in a toxic heavy metal. Do you know why? Because if you actually take a vaccine and you put it and you inject it with toxic heavy metal, the immune system flares up. You actually get a much more pronounced reaction. So what happens if you take a little child and you actually put 7 of these vaccines into them at the same time, and you put them in there with pro-inflammatory compounds meant to excite the immune system, and that child just happened to have peanuts? Wham, now they have a peanut allergy. What if they happen to have a mild reaction going on to hay fever or ragweed or pollen? Bam, now they have seasonal allergies. And so what you've seen is not only a proliferation in autism, but seasonal allergies, peanut allergies, gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance, all of these sensitivities and to foods and airborne compounds that barely even existed is because we purposely excited the immune system when we actually inject things like aluminum. The other thing is we vaccinate against statistically insignificant risk. So do you know that a child, an infant, all the way into their prepubescent years, has a greater chance of dying in a motor vehicle accident on their way to school than they do of catching hepatitis B? Yet we vaccinate all of these children for hepatitis B, which is transmitted 2 ways: sexually transmitted or transmitted through intravenous drug use sharing needles. What are the chances that an infant not born of a mother with hepatitis B is going to have sexual intercourse or engage in intravenous drug use? 0. Yes. And so why are we taking them out of the mother's womb and then whacking them with a hepatitis B vaccine? Because if you get on the schedule, you can't sue them. All right, guys, I have 3 seconds left. I see the crowd. There's 2 of them, the bouncers coming with the. There used to be that like game show where they had like the hook and they would like literally grab you by the neck and drag you off a stage. So 5 more minutes. Can I get 5 more minutes? Woo! Yeah! Yes! Let's do this! All right, we're going to heal the world. Yes, ma'am. Oh, it's a 2-part. I thought you said 2-pack. Okay, 2-part. Her question, then your question. Okay, part 2. Dude, I love that you have your own bouncer. Like, seriously, I'm not messing with him. I'm answering his question.
So, for someone who has been on anti-anxiety meds for over 10 years, right?
Yes.
How can I replace that? Because I suffer from that.
Yes. You know, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable and authentic about that. She said, because look, it's really hard to stand up in front of 600, 700 people and say, I suffer from anxiety, but everyone in this room has either suffered from or knows someone who suffers from anxiety. So I'm going to spend 3 minutes on that really quick. Anxiety, very specifically, again, we talked about this in the suite last night. Nobody tells you what anxiety is. If you ask 100 physicians and 100 therapists and 100 counselors, what is anxiety? They will tell you the characteristics of anxiety. They will say it's a fear of the future. It's the sensation of impending doom without maybe the presence of a fear. It's a sensation of being anxious. It's rapid heart rate. All of that are the characteristics of anxiety. But what is it? Specifically, what's going on in your body that is causing anxiety? It is specifically this. It is a rise in 4 neurotransmitters in your brain. These 4 neurotransmitters are called catecholamines. Catecholamines, ephedrine, norepinephrine, ephedrone, and dopamine. One of these we call adrenaline. So when these rise, first of all, I'm in a awakened state. As they continue to rise, I feel anxiousness. As it rises even further, I feel anxiety. If it continues to rise, I will have a panic attack. And if they rise even further, I will have paranoia. All of these are labeled mental health illnesses, but they are not told, you're not told that this is a rise in catecholamines. So once we identify that anxiety is a rise in catecholamines, and to prove this, if you suffer from anxiety, ask yourself these 3 questions. Have I had it on and off throughout my entire lifetime? Your answer will be yes. Ask yourself if you can always point to the specific trigger that causes it. Your answer will be no. You do not need the presence of a fear to feel fear. People that suffer from true anxiety do not need to be afraid of heights and walk to the edge of a 30th floor balcony to feel anxiety. They can be sitting in a crowd just like this, perfectly safe, with no fear, and be overwhelmed with anxiety. The problem is they immediately look to their outside environment. They think anxiety is something happening to them. It's happening within you. And so the enemy is catecholamines. We need to reduce catecholamines. How do we do that? You may want to write this down. You take a complex of B vitamins, the B complex, and not to get hyper specific, but make sure it has something called pyridoxal 5-phosphate. It's a specific form of a B vitamin. You take methylcobalamin, the methylated form of B vitamin, and you have to take folinic acid or methylfolate. Those are just fancy names for the folate in our diet that has been refined into the form the body can use. I have never once in my life, and we had more than 160,000 patients in our clinic system, never once in my life have I met somebody who suffers from anxiety who didn't also have gut issues. Not once. I already know that you have gut issues, and she does. Yes. So we're getting deep into your business right now. So why would I have a mental illness and a gastrointestinal problem? Because we are not methylating properly in our gut. This is a deficiency, a nutrient deficiency. This is not a psychiatric disease. Yes. So, yes, ma'am. And this will be the last one, and then I promise you, Brent, I'll give you the stage back. And you know what? I have this, I forgot to use this laser pointer, because usually I'll just burn like 1 or 2 people's retina out. I mean, you want to see an audience pay attention? Just blind somebody in one eye. And then I'm like, yeah, don't look at your phone, because then when you look back up, I just take out an eye. So. Yes. No, nothing that I told you to put in your water would counteract your medication. Minerals do not counteract with that, and certainly hydrogen gas will not counteract with that. If hydrogen gas caused any problems, we'd all be dead, right? 67% of our weight is hydrogen and water. So you're on what, levothyroxine, Synthroid? Okay, so levothyroxine and Synthroid. Here's a quick thing about thyroid, and then I'll end with this. So the big secret about the thyroid is that it makes 2 hormones, T4 and T3. When T3 is low, you're told you have hypothyroid, and you're put on medication to raise T3. The little known fact about the thyroid is it only makes 20% of the T3 in your blood. Wait a second. You mean if T3 is low, they put me on medication for the thyroid, but the thyroid only makes 20% of that hormone? Yes. The question is, where does the other 80% of the thyroid hormone come from? It is methylated in your gut, in your liver, your gut, and your periphery. We take T4 and we convert it into T3. If you don't have the nutrients, B vitamins, methylfolate, trimethylglycine, if you don't have selenium and thiamine, you can't make this conversion. Now you have a deficiency, not in T3, a deficiency in methylation in your gut. And now you are told that you have a thyroid problem, hypothyroid, and you need to subscribe to a lifetime of medication. So we're going to hold the thyroid responsible for a crime it's not committing. It is a nutrient deficiency in the gut because 80% of that number is coming from here, not from here. So why are we not looking here? Because there's no money here. The money is in the medication here. It's the same way that heavy metals have an affinity for the thyroid. The heavy metals get sucked into the thyroid, right? And then the immune system chases them in there, manufactures antibodies to try to get to the metals, and now you're told you have Hashimoto's. We hammer the immune system and we give you, anti-inflammatories. Instead of saying, why don't we help the immune system get the metals out and let the thyroid antibodies go to zero? Guys, thank you so much for your time. I love you. Thank you.